question seems simple at first, almost deceptively so. How does a city this carefully planned, this orderly, this advanced, simply fall silent? How does a place designed with such precision disappear without the scars of war, without the ruins of fire, without the chaos of sudden destruction? Standing on the baked earth of Mohenjo-daro today, with the wind moving softly across ancient brick and the sky stretching endlessly above, that question still hangs in the air, unanswered. This was not a city that grew by accident. It was not shaped by chance. And yet it was abandoned, slowly and quietly, leaving behind one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. Mohenjo-daro rises from the plains of what is now southern Pakistan, near the winding course of the Indus River. The land here is wide and flat, shaped over thousands of years by seasonal floods, fertile silt, and shifting channels of water. Even today, the horizon feels open and exposed, a place where earth and sky seem locked in a long conversation. Thousands of years ago, this river valley offered something rare in the ancient world: predictable fertility. The annual flooding of the Indus replenished the soil, allowing settlements to grow not just crops but stability. And from that stability, cities emerged. What makes Mohenjo-daro extraordinary is not simply its age, but its intention. This was not a cluster of homes expanding outward in disorder. From its earliest phases, the city was planned. Streets intersect at right angles, forming a grid that feels almost modern in its clarity. Blocks are uniform, pathways are straight and purposeful. Even now, walking among the ruins, the geometry is unmistakable. This was a city that understood structure, balance, and control over space. The buildings themselves were constructed from standardized baked bricks, remarkably consistent in size. That consistency speaks quietly but clearly. It suggests shared knowledge, coordinated production, and systems that extended far beyond individual households. Walls align, doorways face inward, private spaces were separated from public ones with care. This was a city designed not just to exist, but to function. Perhaps the most striking feature of Mohenjo-daro lies beneath its streets. A vast drainage system runs throughout the city, with covered channels, inspection holes, and sloped pathways that guided wastewater away from homes. Many houses were equipped with private wells and bathing areas connected to this network. In a world where sanitation was often an afterthought, Mohenjo-daro treated it as essential infrastructure. Clean water was accessible, waste was managed. The city breathed through hidden channels beneath the ground. At the heart of the site stands an elevated complex often called the Citadel, though it does not resemble the fortified strongholds seen elsewhere in the ancient world. There are no towering defensive walls, no signs of siege or militarization. Instead, this raised area appears to have been a space for communal activity. A large, carefully sealed water tank dominates the structure, its bricks fitted tightly, its floor waterproofed with bitumen. Water flowed in and out through controlled openings, suggesting ritual, regulation, or collective use. Whatever its purpose, it reinforces the sense that Mohenjo-daro valued order, shared systems, and civic life. And yet, for all its sophistication, the city remains strangely quiet when it comes to certain answers. No monumental inscriptions line its walls. No long texts explain its beliefs, its leadership, or its historical events. The script used by its inhabitants appears on seals and small objects, but it has never been fully deciphered. The voices of the city have been reduced to symbols we can see, but not yet understand. This silence deepens the mystery. We can observe the systems, but not the stories behind them. The city flourished as part of a wider network, now known as the Indus Valley Civilization, stretching across vast distances. Goods moved along rivers and land routes. Standardized weights suggest regulated trade. Seals found far from Mohenjo-daro hint at connections with distant regions. And yet, even as part of this larger world, Mohenjo-daro retained a distinct identity, a clear internal logic that shaped its growth. Over time, subtle changes begin to appear in the archaeological record. Some buildings were rebuilt atop older ones, raising the ground level. Streets were adjusted. Drainage systems were modified. These were not signs of collapse, but of adaptation. The city responded to environmental pressures, especially the unpredictable behavior of the Indus River. Flooding appears to have been both a gift and a challenge, nourishing the land while slowly reshaping it. Then gradually something shifted. Later layers of the city show less uniformity. Construction becomes less precise. Some drainage channels fall into disrepair. Houses are subdivided in ways that suggest crowding or social change. None of this points to sudden disaster. There is no widespread ash layer, no evidence of violent invasion, no mass destruction frozen in time. Instead, the changes feel slow, cumulative, almost weary. One theory suggests environmental transformation played a central role. The Indus River, known for changing its course, may have moved away from the city, reducing access to water and trade routes. Climate patterns may have shifted, weakening the seasonal floods that sustained agriculture. Over generations, the land that once supported abundance may have grown less reliable. Another possibility lies in broader regional change. As river systems altered and resources shifted, populations may have gradually moved toward more favorable areas. The city did not fall, it emptied. Homes were left behind not in panic but in quiet succession. The infrastructure remained, waiting for people who never returned. What makes Mohenjo-daro so unsettling is that it resists dramatic explanations. There is no single moment to point to, no clear villain, no final battle. Its end feels more like a long exhale than a scream. The systems that once held it together slowly loosened until the city could no longer sustain itself as a living organism. Today, the ruins stand exposed to sun and wind, their baked bricks eroding grain by grain. Conservation efforts attempt to slow this process, but time presses forward relentlessly. Walkways guide visitors through streets once filled with daily life, though the sounds have faded. The wells remain. The drains still trace their hidden paths. The city's logic is still visible, even in decay. And the question remains, how did a city so carefully planned, so deeply invested in order and infrastructure, fade away without leaving behind the marks of catastrophe? Perhaps the answer is not singular. Perhaps Mohenjo-daro teaches us that collapse does not always arrive as fire or conquest. Sometimes it arrives as change, as adaptation that no longer keeps pace, as systems that slowly lose alignment with their environment. In that sense, the city's silence is its message. It speaks not of failure, but of impermanence. Even the most advanced systems exist within forces larger than themselves: climate, rivers, time. Mohenjo-daro reminds us that human ingenuity can shape landscapes, but it cannot freeze them. As the sun sets over the Indus plains and shadows stretch across the ancient bricks, the city feels neither dead nor forgotten. It feels paused, preserved in a moment between presence and absence. And perhaps that is why its mystery endures. Not because we lack theories, but because none of them fully close the circle. So if you stand here, in imagination or in memory, and look across the quiet grid of streets, you might return to that opening question. How does a city like this disappear? And you might realize that the answer matters less than what the city continues to offer us. A lesson in balance, in adaptability, and in the fragile agreement between human design and the natural world. If you found yourself drawn into this journey through deep time, and if this silent city sparked your curiosity, you're warmly invited to like, comment, and subscribe. There are many more places like this, still waiting to be understood.